If you want, or just call me.
Okay. Okay. Welcome. I'd like to call to order this special meeting of the Downtown Development Authority. Let's take a roll call. Zach Assett. Sharon Corbin.
Present.
Robert Farhat. Roseanne Horn. Todd Kilgus.
Present.
Laura Ochoa.
Present.
Jamie Ray Turnbull.
Present.
Mayor Hodges.
Present.
Our first order of business tonight is the approval of the March 1st, 2022 minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, let's take a vote. Sharon Corbin,
Aye.
Todd Kilgus,
Aye.
Laura Ochoa,
Aye.
Jamie Ray Turnbull,
Aye.
Mayor Hodges.
Aye.
Yeah.
Oh, I also. Sorry, this is my first time as
Yeah.
chair. Okay. Do we have any public comments on agenda items tonight?
My name is Richard Landon. I live in the residence of the condos over there, which has been some publicity. You have hopefully some plans that are coming. I hope that you will include the method of how you're going to make that. Okay. There's so many different options. Thank you.
That's in regard to the landscaping or the actual development plans for the lot, correct? I just want to. Go ahead, yeah.
My name is Al Mazer. I live at 30 Point Park Place.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question, and that's in regards to the determination of the site for the theater and the art center. Was that done by the development authority? Just asking a question.
So I can speak, Al, we do not respond to questions in meetings, but I'd be happy to talk with you or in an email from this
Yeah,
meeting.
I'm just curious because at one time Mayor Enid had wanted an art center in the green space there, and for whatever reason that didn't happen. And I'm just curious as to who actually determined where the site should be. So I'd like, would like an answer from some, it is important to know that information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no more public comment, we move to unfinished business, which we don't have any unfinished business. Unless there's anything that anyone has a comment on. Okay, this brings us to new business, which is going to be the approval of the 2022 to 2023 budget, which we'll be sending to City Council. So.
I
Oh,
can
okay.
discuss. So we're,
Yeah, if Director Seisland,
Yeah.
would you mind going through the budget overview?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Wixon. So DDA board members, before you tonight is the proposed DDA budget for the fiscal year of 22-23. As the chairman stated, depending on your considerations tonight, this budget will be approved by the DDA. And if there's any amendments and changes tonight from this meeting, that will then be forwarded to City Council for their consideration approval at Monday's meeting. And so with that said, I'll go through and discuss a couple of those items. After I discuss those items, I'd be happy to answer any questions or thoughts you may have, and we'll get into that good dialogue. So thank you.
Okay.
In the fiscal year 2023, the DDA will capture about 116,637 property taxes. This is the sole source of revenue for the fiscal year because this is a component unit similar to the Tax Increment Finance Authority, where there's certain tax capture dollars that can strictly only be invested into the Downtown Development Authority. The proposed expenditures for the year that I have proposed for the DDA and for your consideration Number one is green infrastructure, and that was discussed at our last DDA meeting for consideration. And that item is $10,000 for whether it's installing a rain garden or similar infrastructure around City Hall, potentially the Civic Campus parking lot area, or if there's certain easements within the DDA we would like to consider for that trial run and such of those. And obviously, I want to work closely with the City Forester and the Beautification Commission. And obviously, this board's approval for that will be much appreciated. Professional services for $15,000. This has been set aside for various professional services used by the DDA. These services could include legal, engineering, and planning. So whether that's using McKenna Associates for planning, obviously legal as well, and engineering, by OHM Advisors, who is our city engineer of record. Landscape maintenance for $28,000 is budgeted for various landscape activities, which is primarily the maintenance of the islands on Jefferson Avenue, along with the easements and sidewalks that are about all the way to about close to that Somerset Westchester intersection. Southern Gardner is the contractor that the city has used historically. I feel my opinion, but obviously I'm welcome to the board's consideration if they're satisfied with these services, or that maybe down the road we consider whether we want to bid those out to get some competitive pricing. That's something I'd absolutely be happy to do from further thoughts on that. You'll note the Civic Campus parking lot. The intent behind this is that there is the DDA board in November of 21 approved an agreement with the Urban Renewal Initiative Foundation that there would be a parking lot built by the Downtown Development Authority right in front of the public library. As part of that agreement, there will be a donation as well of $200,000 for the building of that parking lot. What this line item here is also setting aside additional funds that are to be unspent that carrying over into the following fiscal year, so that we keep adding up that balance of, the 200,000, 45,000, potentially down the road, if the Downtown Development Authority wanted to use fund reserves, that's another 88,000 that could be used. And then, more than likely with the timing of the SCOP Center, you're looking at, probably one more fiscal year we could set aside. Because obviously, if we're going to do this project, we need to have, a strong consideration for all the residents around the area, the public library. What are the other uses that can be done? And as I discussed before, that this being not only just a parking lot, but also a gathering space, whether that's for future, farmers markets or concerts and events. These are things that we need to be considering of this parking lot. And obviously to the residents of the condos that live right next to it, it's something that I want to be very mindful of and respectful of, trying to mitigate any concerns they may have. DDA director, that is part of my salary and wages, along with the finance director for accounts payable and such for their wages. And then the new one you'll see in here is wayfinding entrance signage. And so if you don't know what wayfinding means, what that means is that as you enter into a community and you're trying to find your way around the community, whether that's public parking or City Hall, municipal building, DPW, it's that entrance as you're coming into our community, as well as at the very beginning on the Jefferson Islands, right near the DPW building, you'll notice a white border for the city logo and welcome to Grosse Pointe Park. Obviously, I think it's important for this community and this board to consider our entrance as visitors are coming into Grosse Pointe Park or exiting out. And so how can we make that more attractive on our Jefferson Boulevard? And so that's what that line item is for. Obviously as well for public parking and other opportunities. The city logo was just adopted earlier this year. So we do have a new city logo that we're doing several rebranding efforts on the electronic right now on our city website and forums. And then as we move along with budget considerations, you'll see public works vehicles, public safety vehicles, and Parks and Rec incorporate some of those. So down the road, or whether this board wants to elect to, make that entrance sign now, we could do so, or we could, put that over several years. It's not a big hurry, but something for this board to consider. With that said, I'd be happy to take any questions, comments.
I have a couple questions.
Shoot.
So I was just wanting to, I guess, refresh my memory on the MOU. I know the 200,000 was pledged, but we haven't received that yet. Is that correct?
That's
They
correct.
needed like municipal approvals for the parking lot.
So as part of that process, and I'll have the city attorney also correct me if any of this discussion, but as part of that process that, will be the DDA, developing that parking lot, we'll be bringing it for this board for its consideration. And then I believe it is when the parking lot is complete or close to completion, that $200,000 donation that will go to the DDA
So
for
that would
helping
then
to
go into,
offset.
okay, to
Yes.
offset the cost.
Yeah.
Okay,
Erica, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's 200,000 total amount that's planned for the parking lot. Or what is it?
That 200,000 is just the donation from the Urban Renewal Initiative Foundation. What I'd like to do is, obviously with inflation and costs rising right now, we need to have, strong consideration that normally a parking lot, what's, considering, let's say 50 spaces of just blacktop is maybe 150 grand. Well, nowadays with inflation, it could be 200 grand or more. And obviously with the considerations we're looking into of adding green space and adding, potentially even bioswales or other, maybe even adding like electronic hookups, so that you could have, plugging into the parking lot, that if there is special events on this area, those costs all need to be factored in. We do have city staff that are able to in-house to do some electrical work in that, but obviously the brunt of that is going to be the curb, the actual building of the premise. So, if that answers your question. Happy.
yeah, have any quotes been obtained or anything started yet for that, or?
Not at this
45
time.
days
So,
kind of
so we had, when I say we, the city administration, we reviewed this prior to that vote in November of what would it take if there was just the parking lot itself, like it's just blacktop. And at that time, we were looking at about 150,000. Well, what I'm trying to do is that I know it's going to cost more than 150,000 obviously for this project. So by setting aside more monies, to do this, that, we have the 200,000, add the 45. If this board elects to use the fund reserves at 88, now you're looking at potentially 300,000 or more than 300,000 for building this parking lot. So to answer your question, like Nick, do you have something right now, of the, premise that not exactly, because I want to go through that planning process of working with our building official, working with my assistant city manager on planning and getting engineering designs that I'd like to bring to this board for their consideration that, hey, is this what you'd like to go with? And then we'll obtain this.
Okay, and then one last question.
Yeah.
In the ledger detail that you've given us, it looked like there has been some spending, this year on the parking lot. I was just curious, what had been done there.
So in that one, yeah, so let me just go back to my previous budget. That more than likely that was probably, potentially actually for, some maintenance work in the area. Was it actually spent on the parking lot itself? No, we had not
Okay,
done
yeah, I
anything
wasn't
to
sure.
that
It was
case.
like
So
preliminary.
it could have been just, honestly, it could have been some operating supplies and such. This is a departmental budget. So you do have those line items where there may be a case of where, maybe that was for, flyers and material, where necessarily, obviously, when we're planning for these major projects, you want to make sure you have everything in there for that. So I can take a look exactly to that 1,300 expense and get back to you.
Thank
But
you.
any like money
So it
spent
wasn't
on
like
it,
a preliminary study or
No.
anything, except the foundation paid for the parking study, right?
so there was a couple different things. The
Okay.
TIFA, the DDA did approve some monies for the
Okay.
parking study and TIFA and the city general
Okay.
fund.
Well, the Scott Center
And
paid for the.
Yeah.
The urban renewal paid for the parking study for
for the Scott.
the municipal parking.
Okay, yeah, that's what I had thought.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on the budget? Okay.
And then
Yeah.
so, and so I'll help Chairman Whitson here, but Chairman Whitson, if there's no further questions, I would recommend a motion for approval of this budget to bring forth to City Council.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, we'll call the roll. Sharon Corbin.
Oh, aye.
Oh, yeah. Todd Kilgus. Board Member Ochab.
Aye.
Jamie Ray Turnbull.
Aye.
Mayor Hodges.
Aye.
And we have an additional member that,
Roseanne Moore is here.
okay,
And aye.
okay. I from Roseanne Horn and I from me. So the motion carries. All right, the next item on our agenda is public comment on non-agenda items. Do we have any public comment on non-agenda items?
This is a matter of relevance in regards to the parking lot. And it goes back to the aughts, when Dale Craniac, as city manager, was getting quite upset over the cost of Detroit water. And during several meetings throughout the aughts, he had brought up the question of the city of the park building its own water processing plant. And the council didn't really go for it. Mayor Heenan was totally in favor of it until 2011. When that water bill turned out to almost double what went at them like 2 years prior. So they, at that time, the council elected to build a water plant in the second parking lot at Windmill Point Park. Well, that was unfortunately the residents on Barrington and some of the ones on Windmill Point came to council meeting. They saw it in the Post Point News, I assume, but this is so-called city property, and they totally objected to it. And that project was nixed. It could still be done. We actually had suggested this before, I think, to you, Nick, and that's, maybe behind the Tompkins Center. You have no homes involved that would complain. But the thing is that the last council meeting, our condo came up, we had a petition, we presented a petition. Ms. Granger of St. Ambrose also was against the parking lot. This was a petition in writing. And I think it's just something I'd like the council to consider, that just based on those things, the fact of listening to your constituents, I think just based on those things alone, that the council should consider not building a parking lot in the green space by the library. At the last public safety meeting, Mark Farnan was there, who was representing the Park Foundation. He was very much in favor of my thoughts, which were replicating the green space across the street, the landscaping, along the driveway, along the library, placing something in honor of Jim Robson in the corner, and leaving the rest of the space to the for kids and other neighborhood activities. So I know it's not the council meeting, but I just wanted to point that out for some consideration in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment on non-agenda items? Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second? Good, second.
1 second.
Second.
Okay. thank
Oh,
you.
okay. Board Member Corbin? With the
Aye.
call? Okay. Board Member Horn?
Aye.
Board Member Kilgus? Board Member Ochab? Board Member Turnbull?
Aye.
Mayor Hodges?
Aye.
And I. So, thank you, everybody.
Peace.